Welcome back to Come Talk About Sports from WQAQ 98.1 from Quinnipiac University, Hamden, Connecticut. Today I am with Jakob Potemri. Jacob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing amazing. Ready to talk some basketball?
Yeah, let's get it.
So our first topic today, Steve Curry said Ben Simmons is the best defender in the NBA. Defensive Player of the Year candidate Miles Turner's out for the year now, or out for a good amount of the season. So now it's down to Ben Simmons and Rudy Gobert. Which one of those two is going to win Defensive Player of the Year?
Well, I think it's also both players are great defenders, but I think it's also going to be looked in how both teams finish in terms of final standings. Ben Simmons is arguably the best defensive guard in the NBA, and not only just a guard, he can play multiple positions as well.
Yeah, but
then you also know Rudy Gobert, the Stifle Tower. Depending on how far the Jazz could go in the playoffs, I know the Donovan Mitchell injury just happened, but I don't know. He averages a crazy amount of blocks, and it's going to be a tough decision, but we'll see what happens.
Definitely going to be a close one. I think if the Sixers can keep this up with a healthy Joel, they could possibly be the 1 seed, and Utah could fall a little, but I think Simmons will win this, but it's going to be a very close one, and what Gobert could potentially win is third Defensive Player of the Year. Similar to Gobert, Steph Curry is 2-time MVP. We saw him try to carry the Warriors this week, had some success, had some failures. Do you think Steph could lead this team to a
I think right before we get to that, I just got some breaking news from Adrian Wojnarowski. He says LaMelo Ball, who was just cleared for individual activity, could return to the lineup in 7 to 10 days. He was originally ruled out for the season. What do you think about that?
That could be big for this Hornets team. LaMelo probably won't get big accident. He won't go right into the work like he was. They're probably going to smooth him in a little. He won't get a ton of playing time, but that's big for a playing tournament. Because they're gonna try and they're kind of rushing him back a little because they need him. They need him in the playing tournament, no question. But I think this is going to be, once it comes down to the end of the year, they're gonna want the 7 or 8 seed because you don't want the 9 or 10 seed. You want 7 or 8 so you can have a somewhat advantage in the playing tournament. I think this Hornets team, Gordon could be coming back soon. I think they could potentially be a 7 or 8 seed. And win the play-in tournament. That's what I think. What do you think about it?
I think that in terms of how the Eastern Conference looks, honestly, anything can happen. I mean, we have Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Brooklyn essentially locked in, or honestly, but Celtics are actually only like maybe 3.5 games away from Milwaukee right now. So we'll see. But those top 3 seeds, it looked pretty locked in. All 3 of those teams could make deep playoff runs, but honestly, all the Eastern Conference, the look and the outcome of it could change very easily. Our Celtics currently stand tied as the 4 seed with the Atlanta Hawks, but there's only a couple of games that separate the 4 seed from the 8 seed, and the Hornets, if they're going to try to the Hornets are probably going to end up in the play-in tournament. However, if they get in to a 5 or 6 seed, that would be pretty impressive. But yeah, it's going to have, if LaMelo Ball comes back, a lot of it's gonna have to be on him. It's up to the Hornets organization, see if they're gonna want to play him a lot or not. But we'll see what happens.
I also right now just picked up LaMelo Ball in our fantasy basketball league to put in the IR spot. And even though I lose one massive acquisition for the week, it could be a gamble to pay off. Because I was looking at that prior to the podcast when I saw LaMelo news, but I wasn't sure if Finney was gonna return. But I knew it was gonna be some point at the end of the year. But I'm taking the gamble. I'm with LaMelo to the IR spot. I dropped Kelton Johnson, so I'm hoping that pays off to me. But now let's move on to Steph Curry and the Warriors. Do you think Steph can lead this team to even a first-round game?
I think Steph Curry can lead his team up to a first-round game. I don't think that in terms of how the West looks, that the Warriors will be able to win a series, first-round playoff series, against a team like the Lakers, which will have LaMelo. We'll have LeBron and Anthony Davis back. Team like the Clippers, Kawhi and Paul George. Team like the Nuggets with Jokic. Suns, Jazz. Some proven teams that can go deep. I think I really, just to go off on a little tangent here, I love the Suns this year.
Yeah,
the Suns,
fun.
I think the addition of Chris Paul to that team was big for that team. Chris Paul is giving them a little bit of confidence. We see Devin Booker, the jump in Michael Bridges, DeAndre Ayton. But if Steph Curry can lead the Warriors past a first round, that will be seriously impressive because Steph has arguably been playing at an MVP level this season, and his work on the court has been pretty amazing to watch.
Yeah, I could see something happening there, but I think Phoenix, with that little injury, Donovan Mitchell could be out for maybe 2 more weeks. Don't really know how long he'll be out for. Nothing major, but going to be an injury to monitor. The Phoenix should steal this 1 seed, no question. Phoenix, Clippers have an easy schedule coming up. The team, Lakers won't get that. Probably won't get a top 3 seed. It's probably going to be Phoenix, Utah, and the Clippers. But let's talk about the Denver Nuggets. No Jamal Murray. The rest of the year, potentially going into next season. What's their ceiling now?
I think they could still. I don't know how far they're going to end up going in the playoffs. That's going to be somewhat responsible to their backup guards, Monte Morris, and your guy Facundo Campazzo.
Campazzo, my guy since day one.
But that team is still very, very talented. Michael Porter Jr. has been playing at an all-star level lately. Aaron Gordon was a great addition at the trade deadline for the Denver Nuggets, and Nikola Jokic is my personal candidate to win this year's NBA MVP.
You think he's clear? Do you think anybody else, if he stays healthy, can get the award from him?
I think if Nikola Jokic stays healthy and continues to produce at the level he's producing, he will win the MVP and in favor of Joel Embiid or anyone in that race. I think Jokic is the clear winner.
Jokic has the clear run right now. I want to say the last foreign MVP was what? I want to say it was Steve Nash, if you count it, or I want to maybe Dirk. I think Dirk got to be before Nash, but Nash, Canada, Dirk from Germany. We haven't really seen the foreign, but Giannis. I don't know how I forgot about Giannis, but all of a sudden these foreigners are taking over. A lot of the top guys are foreign. Do you think this is going to be a trend coming forward?
I think that the foreign market in terms for the NBA is only going to expand, especially now since I don't know if you saw it today, but the NBA just recently allowed NBA scouting officials who are fully vaccinated to begin again traveling overseas to scout players. And I think that'll lead to a whole generation that's continuing to expand of players with great amounts of talent playing on EuroLeague teams and anywhere across the world to come into America and play basketball at an extremely high level.
Definitely major thing. We've already seen a few signs from overseas. We see Peter OKC signed somebody from Real Madrid to a multi-year contract. Mike James making a return to the NBA, who was playing in Europe for a while, who was in the conversation MVP in the EuroLeague, but he's back in the Brooklyn Nets. And I also saw somebody from the Sydney Kings in Australia get signed. So starting to see more of this. But I'm going to ask you here. So with the Olympics, hopefully they're happening this year, maybe next year. The Team USA, are they going to win it this year?
I think Team USA can win the Olympics.
Well, you also got, I think, like teams like Serbia are a little disappointment, but you also have a team like Spain, even though you think of guys like Rick Rubin, mediocre. He knows how to play, and those EuroLeague, different rules. Rick Rubin won MVP in the World Cup thing they had a few years ago. And you have Serbia, you have Jokic, and my guy Pokazveski over there. Both by many guys in Serbia. They were the favorites to win it.
Serbia could be fun.
Yeah, Australia too always finds a way. Patty Mills is a phenomenal overseas guy. Maybe Kyrie plays over there. Who knows what Kyrie's going to do? And Ben Simmons. It's going to be a fun team over there. I can't forget the legend, Aaron Baines. Now let's move on to the Washington Wizards. They're starting doing good lately. Do you think this team could make a first round? Make a first round run, I should say?
I would say that the Washington Wizards, in order for them to make an impressive first round run, a lot of that work is going to have to be placed on Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. Russell Westbrook has shown to be an incredible player for the Wizards this season. He's currently averaging a triple-double, and Bradley Beal is having one of his best scoring seasons of his career. But the role guys around them, I haven't been sold on many of them yet. A while in my fantasy league, I had Rui Hachimura. He's a second-year forward. He's known for his points and rebounds, and I really liked his production, but lately his production started going down a little bit. But I think that team has overall has some solid talent around them and could make a good playoff run, first round at least, if Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal show up as leaders.
Yeah, so you could definitely make a minor run. We could see how it goes in the first round, but I'm actually going to change a little. I was thinking about big news in college basketball news was Chet Holmgren is going to Gonzaga. I was thinking Rubio went to Gonzaga, but Chet Holmgren, he's similar to my guy Alex Potemri, but he's the number one recruit, 7'1", 195 pounds. He can dribble, he can shoot, he can do almost anything. Do you think a guy like Chet Holmgren is telling you his play style, do you think he could transition to the NBA at 7'1", 195?
It's definitely possible. We've seen right now your guy Alexis Pokusevski. He's a 7-footer. He's 180, 190 pounds, and he plays a multitude of positions. So I'm somewhat expecting that Chet Holmgren could do something similar in the NBA. We'd see dudes with some.
Could we see this more of skinny, tall dudes coming in?
I think it's going to be a mix. I think we're going to see. This is going to be like one category of it. We're also going to see a lot more like smaller centers, like 6'6", 6'7", coming in that work well for small ball lineups. And I think we're moving closer and closer into a positionless league. There's always going to be positions in the NBA, but we're going to see guys who are like maybe 7-footers start playing point guard and some guys smaller playing center. It's just as much skill as you have at whatever position you're going to play. It's not going to matter so much on height anymore.
Yeah, I think this upcoming, the next few years draft class, it's going to be really good. And a lot of teams think the same thing. And the tanking is getting bigger and bigger. And post All-Star break, there's been the most 20-plus point game wins in NBA history. Is this a problem in the NBA?
I think it's a problem in some way. I think it depends on how that team plays in a certain night. Sometimes teams just have bad nights. Some teams just have really good nights. But I think another problem that I think kind of relates to this, it depends with some teams that are facing injury battles, is the NBA is going through one of its toughest schedules ever this season. Coming back from the bubble, it's just teams are having less and less time to practice. There's free agent signings, trade deadline signings, and a lot of these guys just aren't practicing. They're not getting as much rest as they should get either. That's leading to injuries and whatnot. It's just this is a season unlike anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, one of the most crazy seasons we've seen in the last 2 years. It's definitely phenomenal how it is. But the blowout's kind of becoming a concern. We saw the Spurs and the Raptors both get fined for resting dudes because Kyle Lowry rested 3 games after coming back from injury. Even though he's fine, we saw Jakob Potemri, DeMar DeRozan, and San Antonio get rested. And even I think OKC might be the next up because, again, resting dudes like Lou Dort at back-to-back simply just because they want the picks to go down. I think this is a major problem in the NBA. But we'll be back very shortly, about 40 seconds, to talk even more about the NBA. Stay tuned.
Small Talk Salon in Hamden specializes in men's and women's haircuts, color, extensions, and styling for all occasions. And it's only a short drive from the Quinnipiac campus. Small Talk Salon is located on Whitney Avenue, right off the Route 40 connector in the Mount Carmel Plaza. Hours and appointments are available at 203-821-7584 or online at smalltalksalon.com. Again, that's 203-821-7584 or online at smalltalksalon.com.
And welcome back to the show. We're going straight back to NBA. New York Knicks. We saw Julius Randle. Behind Steph, he had the best week He had a 40-point game. What was it, yesterday or 2 days ago? Phenomenal guy. Is this New York Knicks team a legit team in the playoffs?
The New York Knicks, I don't think anybody was expecting to have as great of a season as they did. They were especially not expecting this rise in Julius Randle. Julius Randle's been always known as a good NBA player, role player type, good scorer, good in the paint, but nobody was expecting he was going to take this all-star jump this year, and his level of production has really helped this Knicks team. And a lot of the players on this Knicks team are who are starting and in and out of the lineup are what would be just 8, 9, 10 role guys on other NBA teams. So the way Tom Thibodeau is coaching his players, I think is really impressive. And if he keeps continuing with the way of style they play and the coaching that's being done on the New York Knicks, I think the Knicks could shock a lot of people come playoff time.
Yeah, there's a lot of dudes on this New York Knicks team who could do a lot, but Julius Randle's a clear star. You got Derrick Rose, who's a good sixth man.
Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson having both previously played for Tom Thibodeau.
Chicago, they got a lot of ties there. And we got guys like Quickly and Barrett, two young dudes. Barrett looking better and better each week goes on. But do you credit the most success of this team to Tom Thibodeau?
I would say a lot of it goes to Tom Thibodeau, but like I mentioned before, a lot of it just goes to Julius Randle's improvement and his production. Julius Randle is becoming the next version of LeBron. He's passing, he's rebounding, he's scoring, he's shooting threes, he's doing everything out there to get his Knicks to win.
If you're the LA Lakers, who once had Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, then
Kyle Kuzma.
Kuzma is what he was good at the time, and people forget that they had a number 4 pick, which was DeAndre Hunter at the time. Looking back 10 years from now,
there was this graphic that came up. It was from a couple of years ago when those 4 players you just mentioned were on the Lakers. It was Kuzma, Ingram, Lonzo, and Julius Randle.
I remember this thing.
And Lonzo and Kuzma had each 40-something% chances of making consecutive All-Star games, while Ingram and Julius Randle were in single digits when all 4 of them were on the Lakers.
What do you think 10 years from now the Lakers are going to regret that trade, even though they ended up winning a championship, but they would have had a phenomenal young core?
We'll have to see how history plays out. I mean, the Lakers are on track right now to win a championship with LeBron and AD, but that trade could have potentially stabbed them in the back for what could have been a young core that could have went on a great series of championship runs potentially for their future.
Definitely a crazy trio they want to have. But I'm going to go to another young trio in Minnesota. So Cat and D'Lo are 7-5 now when they play with each other. It's crazy they've only played 12 games together. But do you think Cat, D'Lo, Anthony Edwards, Malik Beasley, potentially another young guy, based off how this pick falls, if it's top 3, they own the pick. Do you think this Minnesota team could be a contender in maybe 3-4 years?
3-4 years, it's a possibility. We're going to have to see. Right now, the Minnesota Timberwolves, are one of the worst teams in the NBA, and they have a lot of role players that aren't exactly consistent. So it's just going to be a matter of developing the young guys, making them all the best basketball players they can be, but also giving them consistent role players. And I think that's what makes a championship team anywhere. So in 3-4 years for the Timberwolves, we'll just have to see.
Yeah, big question there. That team has a good young core, but you've heard my hate plenty of times about Anthony Edwards. I don't think he's going to be a big part of the future. I said in the last podcast, Marks, I think Anthony Edwards, should be a real run to get Bradley Beal from the Wizards if I'm in Minnesota's boat. Do you think in the future, I said this last time, should the Timberwolves make a real run after Bradley Beal?
Depends. Yeah, it depends what kind of package you set up.
So what if you throw in Anthony Edwards and more? And Malik Beasley too.
Anthony Edwards and Malik Beasley. It depends how the Wizards, how long they're playing, if they're going to keep Westbrook. Because
I'm saying this way, what if all of a sudden the Wizards are down, we don't want a Westbrook Beal deal, we want to go on a full rebuild.
Then I think, you throw some picks in there, and I think you have a possible trade there. Beal playing with Cat, D'Lo, whoever the Timberwolves draft this year in the top 3. I think it could be fun.
Yeah, I've been saying I think one of those 2 teams should make a run for if you're the Wizards, Cat. If you're the Timberwolves, Bradley Beal. That's what I think those teams should do. But I have to wait and see because neither of those teams are a great board. They need one more star. Now I'm going to move on to the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics fan, they've been on fire lately. What's your dream playoff matchup to the Boston Celtics?
My dream playoff matchup for the Boston Celtics would have to be the Detroit Pistons because that would be a 7-game sweep, but we know that's not going to happen. I would say the most likely potential best possible in terms of logic, what the best possible playoff series for the Celtics, I would say would have to be the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks are a very good team. They have some great shooters in Trae Young, Bogdan Bogdanovic, who recently came back from an injury and has been on fire. Kevin Huerter. They also have some good rebounding and also some good scoring. John Collins, Clint Capella. They now have Lou Williams off the bench. I think that team could put up a good fight against the Celtics, but I think the Celtics just have more star power to win a series in that area, and that's why I would like to see them in a playoff series.
Yeah, I could agree with that. The Hawks, I don't want to play Miami. Miami's my biggest fear to play against. I think the Celtics should beat Miami, but I don't want to play that team at all. In the second round, say you win the first round against the Atlanta Hawks. Who do you want to play second round?
The Milwaukee Bucks.
Milwaukee over Philadelphia?
Milwaukee or Philadelphia. I think I would rather have the Celtics play Milwaukee. It'll end up being more likely we play Philadelphia or Brooklyn, but if we play Milwaukee, I think the Celtics have done a great job this year at contending. Giannis Antetokounmpo, usually his partner Chris Middleton has great games against us, but I think as long as the Celtics can contain Giannis, who scores very high game averages and basically just destroys everybody on the court he sees, then I think we could win a series against the Milwaukee Bucks and potentially go to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, it's definitely a bizarre that I'm gonna go all the way. I'm gonna go Philadelphia. We've had sets against Philadelphia throughout the years, even though they're having a much better season this year than they ever had in the process. I still don't think this team could beat the Celtics in a 7-game series. We know how to beat them, and we'll continue to beat them. But I want them in.
The only thing I have against that is that Embiid has been killing the Celtics this year.
Yeah, Embiid's always going to be a problem on this team.
And we knew how to stop him before. He's just Embiid turned a switch or something.
Yeah, the biggest concern is the health of that team. But then conference championship, you said you want Milwaukee, so it'd be Philadelphia all the way. I want Milwaukee in the championship round. But now I'm going to move on to our last segment. That's some Celtics trivia. Last week, we did a Celtics trivia Marcus Pierre jersey numbers, but this time, it's going to be a little different. So my very first question for you, Jacob, is, on this Celtics team, who is the youngest player?
On this 2021 Celtics team?
This team right now.
I believe the youngest player would have to be, is it Aaron Nesmith?
You're wrong, but it's very close. Romeo Langford is actually 9 days younger than Aaron Nesmith.
Damn.
Born in about October 25th, I want to say, 1999. But 9 days younger. It's a small gap, but it's pretty surprising to me in his second year. Next one we're going to move on to is going to be the 2017-18 Celtics. So there's 2 players from that 2017-18 team from Australia. Who are those 2 players?
Those 2 players are Kyrie Irving and Aaron Baines.
There you go. That one is actually correct. Now you're in tie with Marcus Pierre, both having 1 correct. But now we have 3 more to go. And it definitely gets more difficult here. So this one was a little surprising to me. In 2016-17, who started the most games for the Boston Celtics in the regular season?
In 16-17, correct?
Yep, who started the most games in the regular season. They lost that year to the Hawks in the first round, if that helps you out.
So is that actually 15-16?
I mean, no, I'm wrong about that. I mean, they, so 16-17.
16-17.
Yeah.
So, this might be a little bit of a surprise. I know the Celtics had a bunch of injuries to their players, but, who had the most starts? I'm going to go, funny enough, was it Jay Crowder?
It's incorrect. It's going to surprise you. But it's Amir Johnson.
Amir Johnson. That's who I was going to go with.
77 games that year of the 82. I didn't think he was that healthy and played that much. I knew he was a starter, but I didn't know he was that healthy. That surprised me. But for the second and last one, in 2015-16 Celtics, had 2 guys who were all-star, not all-star at the time. One was a former all-star, one became an all-star later on in the future. Who were those 2 players in the 15-16 Celtics? One was a former, one was an all-star before he went to Boston. One ended up being an all-star after the 2016 season. One is easier than the other.
I'm trying to think.
2015-16. I'll give you more. Neither of them played a full season for the Celtics that year. Both were acquired. Were they both through trades? I want to say they both. I didn't want to say one was through free agency, the other one was through trade. Or it could be both trades, but I'll give you a little more hints.
Was it no? Because I was gonna say Rondo, but Rondo was traded in 2014.
Practically the year after Rondo.
Was it Jeff Green and Gerald Green?
Incorrect, but I'll give you a little more of a hint. 2015-16 Celtics. Remember that. Just remember, one was before, one was after. One of them's not in NBA anymore. One of them might be NA's NBA soon.
Was one of them Isaiah Thomas?
One is Isaiah Thomas. The other one has not been a year.
Because I remember Isaiah Thomas 15-16 was his first All-Star year.
That's when we lost to the Cavs that year, actually. It was wrong. They got swept by the Cavs.
14-15. So is it actually 14-15?
No, it's 15-16.
Right, so
wrong. They either played the Hawks or the Cavs. I'm not sure exactly which one, but this other guy, he's not known for playing with the Celtics. He did not spend that many more years. He started 4 games this season.
He started in 4 games this season?
Started 4 games that season. He's not in the NBA anymore. Season. Last hint I'll give you is he was about 6'9" power forward. Mostly power forward. Power forward / center.
Was it Brandon Bass?
It's incorrect. David Lee.
Oh, David Lee. I didn't even know David Lee was an All-Star.
Yeah, David Lee was a 2-time All-Star on the Knicks. And he made one with the Warriors, too. But for the very last question, this one's a little tough, but you're going to know both of these players. On the 2014-15 Celtics, who were the 2 players that won the NBA Finals? Not participated, they won the Finals.
2 players on the 14-15 Celtics who...
the year before Isaiah Thomas.
And they went on to win the Finals?
No, they won NBA Finals. One of them, multiple Finals. One of them only had one. My next hint I'll give you is both of them won a Finals in the 2000s. One's in the NBA, still one is not.
I'm going to go Rajon Rondo.
That's one.
And...
Other one's 2000s he won a championship and not in the NBA. I'll give him more of a hint. He was in a starting 5 on the championship team.
And he was a starting 5 on this team.
No, he wasn't a starting 5. This when his team won the Finals, he was a starter on this team. He was mainly, defensive player. Not a Hall of Famer either.
Was this Tony Allen?
Not Tayshaun Prince. That is all the trivia. Unless you guys, Marcus, Ricky, in the booth, do you have any trivia questions you would like to ask? That is it. It's all we are going to have for this episode of Come Talk About Sports from WQAQ